Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakakwadash, Barakata. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well, and peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video just to show that we're heading into those great times of tribulation, those days of Jacob's trouble, and all hell's going to break loose out here, and the only thing that can save you from these calamities is having that protective covering of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai over you. And the article I'll be reading from is on the economiccollapseblog.com, and the title reads, Bankers and tech executives know the collapse of society is coming and are feverishly prepping for it. While most of the general population has been lulled into a false sense of security, bankers and tech executives are spending millions upon millions of dollars to prepare for the collapse of society. Do they know something that the rest of us do not? And this brings me to my first precepts in 2 Esdras chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 17. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days being that time of Jacob's trouble, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And we're seeing these powers stand in fear by prepping for this coming collapse, as we're about to get into with this article, because they can see the signs of the times. And I mean, if you're keeping your eyes in the news and in these scriptures, you can as well. There are major earthquakes happening just about every day. There are famines around the world. There are countries, governments collapsing, as well as those countries just collapsing outright. You've got proxy wars, which will eventually lead to real wars, such as World War III, which will mainly be in that Middle East region, which will be that Battle of Armageddon, the Battle of the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, because the Most High is about to visit the world in which he made, to recompense unto you wicked people your judgment for this wicked do-as-thou-wilt lifestyle that you've been living. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. And you've honestly got some people out there, especially among you elites, that think once everything blows over that you're going to be able to come back to the surface and continue with your new world order. But once those nukes start flying and Yahushai returns in that chariot, it's game over. You elites and you other heathens are going to go into slavery under the foot of the true children of Israel, which is the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And victuals mean food or provisions. And what do we just read in that article? The general population has been lulled into a false sense of security, because the average peon out here actually thinks this society is going to go on forever, just because the supermarkets are filled with food at a relatively cheap price. But that's coming to an end very quickly. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So once things really start popping off, those supermarkets are going to be ransacked rather quickly. Those food trucks are going to stop delivering food, and it's just going to become complete pandemonium out here. Cannibalism is going to come back in a big way. And for you people out there that may escape the famines, you're only going to fall into another snare, such as getting killed by those martial law troops, or those NATO troops, or getting thrown into those FEMA concentration camps, where you're going to be tortured to death. And you sincere brothers out there that may find yourself in those concentration camps, just endure until the end and don't take that mark of the beast microchip. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. Great death and destruction from one end of the earth unto the other. Apparently, talk of doomsday scenarios has become very popular at Silicon Valley dinner parties, and as you will see below, having a plan to escape to New Zealand appears to be a very popular plan B among the tech elite. Of course, this is not just a West Coast phenomenon. Many bankers on the East Coast have similar concerns and have also been developing contingency plans. Ladies and gentlemen, they know what is coming and they are feverishly getting prepared for it. In fact, JP Morgan Chase's head quaint just publicly declared that the next financial crisis is going to result in social unrest not seen in the US in half a century. I'm going to skip around in a bit in this article just to get to the points. If you visit my website on a regular basis, you already know that I have been warning that rising levels of anger and frustration are rapidly eroding the thin veneer of civilization that we all take for granted on a daily basis. And when you look in the news and what's going on in America, what do you hear about? Economic collapses, jobs getting outsourced to other countries, automation, Edomites or so-called white people getting addicted to opioids and killing themselves, racial tensions building up. We're at that point where Jacob's trouble is about to begin in full. And this brings me to 2 Ezra chapter 15. I'm going to start at verse 15. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And on the one hand, this is speaking of this coming race war, where you're going to have so-called white people or the Edomites against you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the children of Israel, among these other nations of people fighting against each other. And on the other hand, there's going to be a civil war between these liberal Edomites and these conservative Edomites, because they're fighting for what course they think the country should take. But it all is vanity in the end, because America's going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And once the average peon out here realizes just how much they've been screwed over by you politicians and elites, they're going to come after you with those pitchforks. Another reason why y'all are in fear and fleeing the country and making these underground bunkers and other safe havens for yourself. I'm going to skip this and go down to here. When society begins to come apart at the seams, many among the elite do not plan to stick around for the day of reckoning, because, as I just read, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. A Bloomberg article that was just published entitled "The Super Rich of Silicon Valley Have a Doomsday Escape Plan" has some amazing revelations. According to the article, over the past 2 years, 7 Silicon Valley entrepreneurs have purchased survival bunkers from a company in Texas and shipped them to locations in New Zealand. In recent months, 2 150-ton survival bunkers journeyed by land and sea from a Texas warehouse to the shores of New Zealand, where they're buried 11 feet underground. Salak. 7 Silicon Valley entrepreneurs have purchased bunkers from Rising S Company and planted them in New Zealand in the past 2 years, said Gary Lynch, the manufacturer's general manager. At the first sign of an apocalypse, nuclear war, wars and rumors of wars, a killer germ, pestilences, a French Revolution-style uprising targeting the 1%, because they shall neither regard their kings nor princes. The Californians plan to hop on a private jet and hunker down, he said. It would be weird enough if one wealthy individual did this, but the count is now up to 7. So why have they chosen New Zealand? Well, it is because New Zealand doesn't have any enemies. English is spoken there. It is very stable, and it is very far away from everything else. And no matter what, it doesn't matter wherever you go on the planet to try to escape these coming calamities. If the Most High's got it for you to drink that cup of destruction, you're going to drink it. So nothing's going to save you unless you have that covering of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai over you. But for you elites, the Most High's got something special saved for you. And a lot of you are going to make it past this calamity. I'll skip this. There's been a significant exodus of wealthy Americans to New Zealand in recent years, and once things start getting really bad, there will be a steady stream of private jets taking off from locations in the U.S. and landing in that beautiful nation. Of course, not everyone plans to leave. Luxury survival bunkers are also being constructed all over the heartland of America, but they aren't cheap. For example, it was being reported that a penthouse inside the survival condo in Kansas was selling for more than $4 million. Another shelter for the ultra-wealthy is the survival condo in Kansas. It was designed to withstand a nuclear blast or nature's worst, but is a far cry from what you might expect an underground shelter to look like. There's a cinema, a swimming pool with a water slide, a spa, a lounge, a gym, and an indoor shooting range to keep the occupants entertained. But survival comes at a price. Last year, it was reported that the plush 3,600 square foot penthouse within the shelter, a former missile silo, were selling for $4.5 million. Needless to say, anyone outside of the top 1% is not going to make it into the survival condo, and in order to keep the rest of us out, it has an armory that is stocked with guns and ammo. Additionally, an armory stocked with guns and ammo is in place in case of an attack by non-members and is also available for owners to practice. The bunker is able to sustain its owners for up to 5 years by raising tilapia in fish tanks and growing hydroponic vegetables under lamps. The elite can see what so many of the rest of us can also see. Our future looks very troubling, and it appears to be wise to get prepared for what is coming in advance. Unfortunately, the rest of us don't have the money to buy a luxury survival bunker or to fly to New Zealand on a private jet. Money may not be able to buy happiness, but it can buy a pretty good escape plan. And like I said earlier, that's just vanity. Unless you have the covering Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai over you, you're going to be exposed to these elements. And this brings me to Amos chapter 9. For you elites, just to show that no matter where you go, you're not going to escape this judgment for the atrocities you've committed in the past up until today. This is Amos chapter 9 verse 2. Though they dig into hell, and that's speaking of underground, because how's an average person going to dig into a parallel dimension? That just makes no sense. Just going to further show you Christians are out of your minds. And besides, hell doesn't exist in the Bible. That's a pagan idea. Thence shall mine hand take them, though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. And that heaven is speaking of those low orbit space stations they have. And it doesn't matter wherever you elites go, the 144,000 of the elect, once they come into that power, are going to go into those underground bunkers and get you, and also go up into space and get you from those space stations. Verse 3, and though they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, I will search and take them out thence. And though they be hid from my sight in the bottom of the sea, thence will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. And you elites also have luxury submarines and underground bases, but that's not going to save you either, because not only are the 144,000 going to go underwater to get you, but Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is going to send Leviathan to get you as well. As it said, thence will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. And now I'm going to go to